Consider a home mortgage of $125,000 at a fixed APR of 12% for 25 years. Calculate the monthly payment. Determine the total amount paid over the term of the loan. Of the total amount paid, what percentage is paid toward the principal and what percentage is paid for interest? In order to do this one, you're going to need the formula that goes along with calculating monthly payments or just calculating payments in general. The following is the formula that we will use. It's PMT is equal to P times the quantity APR over N. That's all going to be over 1 minus the quantity 1 plus APR over N, and that's going to be raised to the negative NY power. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about here is many times students or just people in general will go ahead and punch in this into their calculator, try to get this all in at once, and they'll end up with an incorrect answer. Or they'll do bits and pieces of it and they'll still end up with an incorrect answer because they're dealing with something called round-off error. You'll notice that for the problem that you're doing, when you go to enter the answer, it says wait until the end to round. And that's what we're going to do in this particular case, but what we're going to have to do is make sure that we add in some strategically placed parentheses in order to make this thing work. And what I want to do is go ahead and enter parentheses in the numerator around everything, and then I'm going to enter parentheses around the exponent right here, because I want to make sure that the n and the y get multiplied together, the negative sign is assigned to it, and then it's used as an exponent just on the part that's inside the parentheses here. I'm also going to add parentheses around the outside. This way I can go ahead and type the whole thing into my calculator as it's written, and I'm going to show you how to do that using the TI-83 emulator to the left of the screen. But the first thing that we have to do before we do all that is make sure that we understand what PMT, P, APR, N, and Y are representing. So, PMT is going to be our monthly payment. That's what we're looking for. How do I know that it's going to be the monthly payment? Because in the problem it says calculate the monthly payment. And that's also going to be key to determining what N is. N is going to be equal to 12 in this case because it is monthly. P, our principal, that's going to be equal to the amount of money that we're going to borrow. So we have P is going to be equal to 125,000. I already know what N is, but I'll write that down in a moment. Then we're going to need to look at the APR, which is the percentage rate in decimal format. Well, the APR here is 12%, so we will write that as a decimal, which will be equal to 0.12. And then we're going to have N, which is the number of payments per year, which we've already done right here. So we'll write that down. N is equal to 12. And then finally, our Y, which is going to be 25 years. So we'll write that down. And then we want to take those four values that we've just put together and we want to plug it into our formula so that it looks something like this. So now our formula is equal to, PMT is equal to the quantity 125,000 times the quantity 0.12 divided by 12 all over the quantity 1 minus the quantity 1 plus 0.12 over 12, and that quantity is raised to the negative 12 times 25 power. Now this is where a lot of students will go wrong. They can get to this part, but it's entering it into the calculator. So when we go to enter it into the calculator, I'm going to enter it in, turn it on first, and I'm going to indicate what I am putting in. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and type in this first parentheses. So I put in the parentheses. Then I'm going to type in 125,000. I'm going to double check that I've got what I've typed in exactly what I need to. Then I'm going to have to multiply by this set of parentheses, so I press the multiplication key. I will open this set of parentheses right here, and then I'm going to put in 0.12. I'm going to divide that by 12. And now notice that I'm going to have to close the set of parentheses here, and then I'm going to have to close the other set of parentheses here. So I will have to put 2 parentheses. Then we are going to need to put in the division symbol or fraction symbol. A fraction bar is the same thing as a division, so we go ahead and type in the division symbol. Notice that I will then open this set of parentheses here. Then I will type in this 1 minus. There's another set of parentheses here, so I'll open that. And then I'll type in this 1 plus. And since in the order of operations division comes before addition, I can just simply type in this 0.12, then the division bar, and then the 12. Then I need to close this set of parentheses, and so I close it. Now I have to deal with this exponent. And notice that I have put a set of parentheses here, but before I do that, I'm going to need to use my exponent key, which looks like this on a TI-83. It may look like something like this, or there are just a certain number of ways that you can do it depending upon the calculator that you have. But in this case, we're going to use what we call the hat key. And we do that, and that means that the calculator has now gone into exponent mode. And by going ahead and typing in this open parentheses, I'm going to be able to include all of this expression as an exponent. So I'll press my negative key, I'll type in the number 12, I'll multiply by 25, and then I will close this parentheses. Finally, I need to close this last set of parentheses. And once I've done that, I need to just double check and make sure everything has been done. So, open parentheses 125,000 times open parentheses 0.12 divided by 12, close parentheses, close them again. Then we divide, then we open the parentheses, 1 minus, open another parentheses. It'll be 1 plus, then 0.12 divided by 12. Close that parentheses. We're going to raise and get an exponent. Open parentheses. We're going to type in negative 12 times 25 and close parentheses. And then we're going to close the parentheses again. And that should have everything the way we need it. And then we simply press the enter key. And we get the following answer, that the payment, PMT, will be equal to 1316.530178, which we will round to 2 decimal places. So the monthly payment, and we'll go ahead and write this down like so, monthly payment is $1,316.53. And that's all there is to it for that part of the problem. Then, of course, as we'll scroll back up so we can look at it, we need to determine the total amount paid over the term of the loan. Well, we're going to take that monthly payment, multiply it by 12 because that'll be the number of payments in a year, and then we'll multiply that by 25. So part B means that we want to look at the total, and that's going to be equal to 1,316.53 times 12 times 25. And we can just simply put that into our emulator here. So 1316.53 times 12 times 25. Enter, and that gives us a total of $394,959. So that's going to be the total amount paid out. And then finally, the last part of the problem, part C, will be of the total amount paid, what percentage is paid toward the principal and what percentage is paid for interest. So to do that, for part C, we'll simply take the total paid, we'll subtract the initial amount, and that will equal interest. So we'll take the $394,959 and we will subtract from that $125,000, and that's going to give us the interest paid. Now the cool thing about this is I already have the $394,959 in my calculator, so I'm simply going to press the subtraction key, type in 125,000, press enter, and then I end up with 269,959. So that means that we paid $269,959 in interest. But we're not quite done with this because we need the percent paid toward principal, which in this case we'll simply take the amount that we paid towards the principal, which in this case will be $125,000, and we will divide that by the total payment, which was $394,959. So we can put that into our calculator, 125,000, and we'll divide that by 394,959. We'll press enter, and we'll have 0.31648. And that goes on and on and on. And we want to go ahead and just round that as a percent to the nearest tenth. So that means we're looking at approximately, and this should be an approximately also, 31.6% for the interest. And I can do one of two things here. I can either go ahead and just subtract this from 100. We'll have 100%, and we'll subtract 31.6%. And that will give us, that'll be 68.4%. And that will have been paid towards the interest. But let's just double check our math. We're going to go ahead and take the total amount, which will be percent paid toward interest, and we'll take the total amount of the interest paid, and that's going to be 269,959, and we will divide that by the total, which is 394,959. Now basically what I'm doing is two different things here. We've already subtracted from 100%, but I'm going to verify that the mathematics actually works. So we'll take 269,959, we will divide that by 394,959, press enter, and notice that we get 6.68. This is approximately 0.6835114, which is going to round to approximately 68.4%. And that's how we work this problem using a TI-83 Plus calculator.